Have you ever heard of Saba Bank? Let's go have a look. Saba Bank is a big national park in the Caribbean. It's an underwater mountain, also known as seamount. The Saba Bank is 2,700 square kilometers. It is similar in size as the province of Utrecht, containing over 100 square kilometers of coral reef. This allows for great biodiversity, as it supports diverse marine communities and serves as the spawning ground for various marine species. One of these species is the red-hind grouper. This medium-sized grouper is one of the most notable species inhabiting the Saba Bank and plays a vital role in the health of coral reef ecosystems. The red-hind groupers are important predatory fish that help to maintain the balance within their marine environment. As a key species in the fisheries sector, the red-hind groupers are also economically very valuable and play an important role in the revenues of local fishermen. Now that we know a little bit about the grouper and its habitat, we want to take a closer look into how, when, and where the red-hind groupers reproduce. The spawning time of the grouper happens each year between December and February. This knowledge, however, is based on only little research that has been done in the Saba Bank and the general knowledge of the local fishermen. Every year, around this time, large aggregations of red hind gather to spawn at a site known as the Moonfish Bank, located in the northeast corner of the Saba Bank. This spawning event is critical for the species' reproduction, as it is the only time of the year when these fish come together in such large numbers to reproduce. In an effort to protect this important spawning ground, part of the Moonfish Bank has been closed to fishing for 3 months each year. However, concerns have arisen about whether this seasonal closure is sufficient. Some experts argue that the closure may not be long enough or cover a large enough area to effectively protect the red hind population. Meanwhile, local fishers are worried that extended closures could reduce their ability to supply fish to the market during key times of the year and threaten their livelihoods.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are the presidents of the Saba Block Foundation, also known as SBF. We preserve and conserve the marine and terrestrial environment on the Saba Bank, which is located in the Dutch Caribbean. We have been doing this since 1987. In addition, we, the SPF, play an important role as an advisory body to the government and as management agency for protected areas. We are a non-profit organization. We, as the SPF, are looking for a solution between the wealth of the fish and the economy.
Today we are going to interview our big friend, Mr. Grouper. Sadly, the red hind couldn't join us today, but we found his best friend to ask some questions.
Well, thank you for having me. It's not every day that a grouper gets to speak up about what's going on in our waters.
Okay, let's start with the basics. Can you tell us a little bit about your friend, the red hind grouper, and what makes you so important in the Saba Bank?
Glad you asked. I'm a medium-sized grouper, part of the Epinephelus family. We're not the biggest fish in the sea, but we're important predators. We help keep the ecosystem in balance, hunting smaller fish and making sure no one species takes over. You might say we're the quiet managers of the reef.
Now, we heard there's a very big event coming up for you guys, the spawning aggregation. What's that all about?
Yes. Around January, my friend and I gather in huge numbers at a special spot on the Saba Bank called the Moonfish Bank. It's our yearly spawning event, a critical time for us to reproduce. It's like a big family reunion with a lot at stake. If we don't gather, well, the next generation of red hind won't happen.
Wow, that sounds like a pretty big event, but isn't that also the time when you're at your most vulnerable to fishing?
Unfortunately, yes. When we're all in one place, it's like ringing the dinner bell for fishers. They know we're easy to catch in big numbers during this time. That's why part of the Moonfish Bank is closed for 3 months during our spawning season. It's meant to give us a chance to reproduce in peace.
But there are some concerns that the closure might not be long enough, or that the protected area isn't large enough to help you guys. What do you think about that?
You're right. It's tough out here. We don't have historical data to know how much our population has been affected, but the pressure is on. The closure helps, no doubt, but is it enough? Only time and more research would tell. At the same time, I get that fishers have their own concerns. After all, they depend on us for their livelihood.
Thank you, Grouper, for your time. We hope you give the greetings to your red hind friend, and we'd like to see you soon.
Managing the reef. Thank you.
The red-hind grouper plays a vital role in the local ecosystem, the Saba Marine Park. This ecosystem is characterized by a diverse range of habitats, including bare rock, seagrass beds, and coral reefs, with depths ranging from 10 to 225 meters. Notably, the park is recognized for its complex and very cryptic reef structures. As significant predators within this ecosystem, red-hind groupers help maintain balance among fish populations. The removal of these predators can lead to an overabundance of their prey species, resulting in increasing competition for resources and potential overgrazing of plants. Effective management of the Saba Bank area relies heavily on collaboration among various global, regional, and local stakeholders who depend on the ecosystem services provided by the marine park. The Saba Conservation Foundation is one of the local organizations, setting up conservation programs and working closely with the local community to preserve and enhance the natural environment of Saba. Setting up regulations is only one part of the management. Enforcing these regulations is a whole nother part. That's why the Coast Guard plays a vital role in enforcing maritime regulations, ensuring safety and protecting marine resources in the Saba Bank area. At the regional level, the DCNA, the Dutch Caribbean Nature Alliance, focuses on protecting the natural resources of the Dutch Caribbean, including the promotion of sustainable practices and conservation efforts in the Saba Bank. The International Maritime Organization is a global entity which sets standards for the safety, security, and environmental performance of international shipping, influencing regulations that affect the Saba Bank area. And even though Saba and the Saba Bank is part of the Dutch Kingdom, the local government, the public entity Saba, is an important stakeholder. It is responsible for implementing policies and regulations related to environmental protection and sustainable development within the Saba Bank. Only collaborative, joint initiatives facilitate the development of policies and regulations that reflect the needs and priorities of all stakeholders and the environment, ensuring a balanced approach to conservation and resource use.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're here at the Saba Bank with the fisherwoman. What's your name?
Hello, I'm a fisherwoman.
Okay, first question. What's your input on the 5-year-long seasonal closure of the Osprey sites of the Saba Bank for the red-hind group?
After 5 years, I don't see much improvement in this policy. As a fisherman, I need to provide income for my family, and I've always relied on these places in the bank to go fishing. And I don't see how this policy was an advantage for me, for my family, or for the fish.
However, didn't you approve of this policy by providing the government or the scientists information about where these osprey sites were located?
Yes, initially I noticed that the fish were getting less and less every year. And I thought when the scientists introduced this policy that it would be a promising idea. And even though I knew that I wouldn't be fishing for 3 months, I thought I would get a higher salary because there would be more fish to fish.
How did you contribute to these studies?
Well, there wasn't a lot of information for the government to know where these fish were located, so they relied on where I was fishing for the redhead to estimate where the spawning sites were, and also they asked me to keep a record on the length of the fish that I was catching.
Thank you, fisherwoman, for your time and information.
Wait, I have something to add. I just wanted to say that and add that I'm extremely disappointed in this 5 years, as I didn't see any improvement in the red hint population at all. Actually, I recorded a decrease in their size, and not only that, I not fishing for 3 months every year for 5 years, and I ended up getting less money. And if this policy didn't even help me or my family or the ecosystem or help preserve this species, then this was all for nothing.
In the Sava Bank, fishing and climate change are direct drivers that increase the pressure on the environment. Ecosystem conservation can mitigate this. Measures that can be beneficial include regulations on the habitat and technologies like coral restoration. Especially fishing within the spawning season of the red hind can have detrimental effects on their population size, not only affecting the ecosystem but also having consequences on fishermen yield. By including local and global stakeholders, our foundation is working towards a more secure ecosystem health with stable fish stocks and a healthy reef ecosystem that can sustain itself and the ecosystem services that we humans benefit from. A very important part of our work is direct and ongoing research on the Sava Bank. This research includes monitoring aggregation spots, fish stocks, aggregation times, and how dependent these are on the moon phases. Through the involvement of local communities and fishermen, we are able to gain a more specific insight in population size, ratio of young and old individuals, and information to calculate population development in the future, while simultaneously ensuring an improved concern of locals for the importance of the ecosystem and this work. Only with this shallow leverage point that research represents, we can gain the knowledge we need to enforce substantial and sustainable solutions. Possible solutions could include implementing marine protected areas and seasonal no-take zones that are specific to every year's spawning season, ensuring a safer reproduction period for red hind groupers, a stable population, and the security for fishers to fish the waters outside the spawning season. To implement these deep leverage points, however, we need the involvement of stakeholders like the local and Dutch government and conservation organizations like the Dutch Caribbean Nature Alliance and the Sava Conservation Foundation.